Hi, I'm Max Aita, head coach of the Juggernaut weightlifting team. I'm here to introduce you to a new video series we're going to do. It's a week in review with our weightlifting team. We're going to go over some of the technique, some of the workouts, and some of the programming that we did each week, and we'll review it. This week we had two remote lifters, Kiana Welch and Nicole come through, and we did a little bit of a review, some of the technical points we worked on with them, some of the programming we worked on, and just generally introduction to this series.
So this was Monday morning. We're going to watch Kiana doing her snatch here, 78 kilos. This is before I got back from University Nationals, so hasn't got the start position down. We worked on this a lot. You can see right here, you can see her shins are really vertical, toes kind of pointed forward, weight's back on the heel. When you pull like that from this position, you end up pushing the bar out in front every time. It feels strong to a lot of people because their legs are not doing the work. So if you have, a strong back like Q does, strong hips, it's going to come off the ground really solid. It's going to feel strong, but then inevitably the bar is out in front of you because it has nowhere to go. So you can watch, she starts pulling, comes up, early, she moves back, bar ends up coming down on her, right there. And she's able to stabilize it because it's pretty lightweight. It's actually about 78% of her best now. So
that's really precise.
Then you get the confusion. Why was it over front? Right?
Or is that good?
Yeah, is that good?
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's what we worked on most of the week with Q snatching. Q also had a really interesting shoulder issue going on with her trap. And so that actually kind of got ironed out by the end of the week. It seemed like, I didn't even notice it today.
No.
So that was cool. Quinn Hennick did a great job fixing a lot of stuff and working on it, and you obviously did all the stuff he gave you, so that was great. Moving on, Pomp did muscle snatches in the morning that day as a warm-up. A lot of times we use muscle snatches as a warm-up because it is light enough that you're not taxing yourself, but it also allows you to train a little bit of the movement. Muscle snatches are a great exercise to develop strength through the whole middle of the pull, and it forces you to continue extending. That's a pretty routine set for Pomp. I think his best is 102. It's about a kilo under Colin Burns' best. Let's see. A little bit better start there. Came down a little bit more behind, but just the general timing was a little off too. The hands and the feet not landing at the same time. You can see here. It's kind of a bar comes up, plenty of height on the bar, plenty of height on the bar. Basically a power snatch.
What percent of that is her?
And actually, that would be pretty much a power snatch right there. And then it comes down, 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 and you have to stabilize it all the way down. So we know there's tons of pull. A lot of times we're talking about technique and making things more efficient. You have to look at it from a perspective of the relative height the bar needs to be pulled. So this right here, this height where the bar is here off the ground in relation to her body, because that's the lowest point in the overhead squat, right? That's the lowest point in the overhead squat that she can possibly catch the weight. She can't catch it 2 inches lower than her overhead squat position. We use that as a baseline to determine how high she has to pull the bar to make that weight. Lowest position, say right here, let's just call this number 50% of her body height. She has to pull the bar at least that high to get under it. And no one is 100% efficient, so no one's going to pull it just the least amount. There's always going to be some distance that she have to pull it. An advanced lifter, really advanced lifter, let's say they're the same as her, have to pull the bar 50% the height of their body. She pulls it, 50%, 55, 60, 65, 70, 80, almost 100% of her height before she actually fixes the bar here. So this distance where she actually catches it, where she actually pulls it to, versus the lowest point she has to catch it, is what determines that difference is what efficiency is all about. So getting more efficient is about not only being able to pull the bar the right height, but get under the bar fast enough to catch it at the very lowest point. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And so most of what we're doing with technique or training or anything is try to maximize that. You're more efficient technically if you move in certain ways that allow you to pull the bar just high enough or get enough acceleration on the bar at the end of the pull to allow you to get under the bar quick enough to get it, catch it at the lowest point you need to catch it. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So a lot of times, if you pulled the bar here and you caught it here, and maybe pulled it a couple inches higher, you'd be super efficient. And I bet if we watch your, later in the week when you did 100, was probably much closer to that.
Yeah.
We can always look at it though and say, hey, how high are you pulling the bar relative to how high you're catching it, and make that more efficient. Nikki's got a really solid, pretty consistent jerk, rarely misses jerks in meets or in training. And you can kind of see, if we stop the video here, the positions. If you keep your weight balanced right through the middle of her pull, or through the middle of her foot, you can see the pressure sitting right in front of her shin. She dips, bends her knees, and as she bends her knees, her hips don't move forward too much. It might kind of dip a tiny bit forward right at the bottom. Well, maybe not. That's pretty good. See, our hips stay essentially in line. If you put a dot right in the center of those blue shorts, that dot stays essentially in the same line when she dips. Weight stays more forward relative to her foot. A lot of people try to tell people to put their weight way back on their heels, and what happens if you do that is that by the time she got to this position, her hips would slide forward at the bottom because they have nowhere else to go, because she's trying to push her weight backward. She's essentially leaning back. She's going to dip, it's going to slide down, her knee's going to bend, her hip's going to slide down and forward and end up pushing the bar out in front, which is the same kind of thing that happens in the pull if you do that. So drives it really well because she's in a good position, finishes her drive well, already starting to split, lands nice. She could land with her head coming through a little bit sooner because she locks the bar about here and then finishes the extension, or finishes the position, but it hasn't really created a huge issue for her yet, and it might not be something that you're gonna change over the short term. So we're not gonna focus on every little detail because you don't want to overwhelm people while they're only there for a few days. Recovering, when people recover from the jerk, we want to try and focus on pushing the bar up before we bring our feet together. So from here, you can see how she throws her back foot back. If we look at where the barbell is, that little yellow point in the bar, watch how it starts to move backward quite a bit. See? From here all the way back to here. Anytime you're moving the barbell horizontally, it's going to become less predictable and less stable for you to hold. So what she would have ideally done is pushed up with both legs so the bar moves upward. Then she just has to bring her feet together at the same time, rather than pushing all her weight back with one foot, almost back to her back foot, and then recovering. You can see how there's she has to re-stabilize here. So it's moving backward, and then she has to put her other foot back down to stop the horizontal movement that she started when she brought her front foot back. Make sense? Yeah. Still solid technique, still consistent, just minor things that we want to work on. Pomp also did some power cleans, a little complex. Pomp set his hips up really well in the jerk there. Easy, just an easy warm-up day for him. Nothing super impressive here. Clearly you can tell because Colin's just not impressed at all. So you can see also, yeah, Kiana has a pretty wide grip here. Wider than we kind of adjusted to by the end of the week. Nice jerk, pretty decent. Definitely the speed and the timing and rhythm is not as fast as it's going to need to be later to make bigger weights. The same kind of thing as we talked about in the snatch, the height of the bar versus how low you have to catch it. The more weight you lift, the faster you have to be under the bar because you're not ever going to pull maximum weights higher than you pull light weights. The big things we worked on with Nicole, right here in this portion of the pull, her head. She's throwing her head and shoulders back before she makes contact with the bar. This is what we want to avoid, this position here, where she's in midair and the bar is in midair, right? Because this is all that wasted time before she actually receives it. It's lightweight, so it's not going to matter that she's doing that. She'll still make the lift. It's a power clean, so it's not going to be that heavy. But efficiency-wise, and like we talked about, getting under the bar faster, she wants to eliminate all these things she's doing that could potentially delay the time she could be going under the bar to receive it, where she's just kind of hanging out there with the bar in midair and moving. So we worked a lot on keeping her feet against the floor longer, and she obviously pulls kind of early here as the bar passes her knee, right here. She pushes her knee forward, out to the bar a little bit, throws her head back, brings her hips through finally at the end. She extends well, but not as much as we want before she actually comes off the ground. Those are the main things we worked on with her clean. All right, so this is Nicole's snatch, 65 kilos, pretty lightweight. Getting better, we worked on her overhead position. Originally, Nicole was holding the weight over her head in a really externally rotated position. So her shoulder, she was trying to point essentially her elbows out towards the weights, right? More forward, if that makes sense to you. A very like, if when you looked at it from the front, you could see the flat surface of her bicep and tricep, the inside of her arm, you could see that really well. And what we did to change that is turn her wrist in more, way more internal rotation, and turn her shoulders over so they're internally rotated. You can see here how her shoulder's in a way better position. This is a better position to catch the weight. It's better for your shoulder. It puts the bar behind your head way more effectively, and it's just that's how you're supposed to hold the weight. There's really no real argument about that. I mean, not everybody does. Obviously, there's people that hold it different and catch it different, but that's basically what you're looking for, is this kind of position, because you're going to be way more stable. You know, the rare occasion where someone is super upright, like Colin, who's really, really upright in the snatch, and he's comfortable holding it like that, then that's fine. You know, you're not going to change somebody who's successful like that. But in Nicole's case, right away when we changed it, she felt better, and it made a big difference for her. Whoa, see how she's struggling to fight that one? That one was actually a little bit forward, obviously, if you couldn't tell from the video. On the pull, she comes up. She's over the bar well here, then starts moving backward really aggressively. her hips are coming way forward to the bar. What happens is, once you're moving this direction, once you're moving here, as the bar's moving up and you're moving up from here, you're using your leg extensors, your quadriceps, to continue the motion forward. As soon as you start turning your hip extensors on, your hamstring, your glute, you're gonna contract those muscles, and it's gonna force your knee to bend. You see how her knee bends here? That's happening because her hips are turning on now. She's leaning back, but she's trying to bring her hips to the bar to make contact here. And in doing this and not continue to extend, once she starts moving towards the bar is going to stop moving towards her, because she has nothing to act on. She can't simultaneously pull the bar towards her body and pull herself towards the bar. Does that make sense? Because you're holding the bar in your hands. If the bar was mounted to the ground, you could do that. You could pull yourself to the bar and try to pull the bar to you. But because the bar is in your hands, at this point, once you start moving towards it, the bar has to slow down, or is going to slow down, and you're going to start moving towards it. This is where you lose speed, or you lose acceleration, and that's why the lift's going to stay a little bit forward on you in general. Obviously, if you're powerful enough and you make strong enough pull, there's a chance you're going to be successful with the lift. But you can see how it ends up in front, right? That face you make when you know you went early, right? If she had gone from here and continued the extension in her leg and continued to hold position over the bar, continued to bring the bar towards her hips before she started to bring her hips into the movement, she would have made that lift a lot further back at the top, right? You can see that. You can also see her arms kind of cock and bend, because now her legs are not increasing the height of the bar, so she has to do something else to keep that bar moving. So she starts bending her arms to try and keep everything moving. All these things are symptoms of just not continuing the extension in her leg. Bar comes to contact, she turns it over, it's a little in front. Still not quite far enough for her to not be successful. Makes it. There you go. So then this is Q's afternoon session on Wednesday. Q had a big snatch day. Worked a lot on her start position. You can see how her shin is more inclined over the bar using her legs a little better here. Still could maybe be a tiny bit more, but does a good job. Same kind of thing as Nicole was earlier. See how she kind of extends to about here and then starts to pull a little bit early. Still not as early as Nicole was in the last one, but still comes toward the bar a little bit. That's going to happen until they get, you know, years of experience or just a lot more lifting. But did a great job making everything stable. You can also see the height of the bar here. The height of the bar here is definitely slightly less than it was on 78. Maybe only a few inches, but it's better, right? She's catching it lower and lower. So this was a big PR for Q. It's about 4 kilos.
Oh God. The one before that looked way better.
The 96, the 98 was great.
Yeah, the
But
98 was good. But
right there, already, you're getting under the bar lower, right? You're below parallel when you actually fix the weight over your head and then finally receive it. You also did a great job, and it kind of crushed you there a little bit, but you did a good job of trying to establish your position in your knees and your hips better throughout the whole day. If you watch, this is a big improvement over where it was. Before, Q would land way back on her heels and her shins would be totally vertical, and this is an improvement, right? We wanted to have her knees forward and her weight a little more forward so that her torso can be upright. So she doesn't have to be bent over so much when she receives the weight. She has good ankle mobility, so that was something that was pretty easy to get to. And, you know, as a PR weight.
Spinal.
And she felt it.
spinal.
Yeah.
That's just what I mean. That's beautiful.
So those are the big things we worked on snatch-wise with Nicole and Q. So this is Nikki's 78 during the week. All the same things we talked about, still a little early. Bar comes up right here, immediately above her knee. She starts pushing her hips through. Actually a little bit better than earlier in the week. She was better to stay on the ground, bring her hips to the bar. Bar comes out in front a little bit. She's a little behind it. And that final point is just forward of where it needs to be. But she's able to contort her body to get it under it. Local gym goer Nick in the back, just impressed.
Oh.
Definitely impressed with that one. In regular speed, you can see how it's a little bit forward. Not as bad as when you slow it down, right? You're not going to see all the little adjustments she made to get it, but same stuff, right? Colin Burns. Just not happy with Quinn in any sense of the way. Every lift Quinn did, by the way, to this day, he was almost disgusted with. You could just see he was unhappy with them.
I thought that Quinn was going to do a clean pull.
Yeah, I think we all thought he was maybe going to get it to his knees. But as you can see here, full speed. Just not happy. And less happy than Quinn, Colin. Watch Colin's reaction here. Just emotionless. Could care less. I feel like Colin right there was Ivan Drago. If he dies, he dies. But Quinn is really fast. I think a lot of people don't realize how fast Quinn is. I mean, he didn't really get a great extension, but he got it.
Pull under.
There's Q. This is just some technical work from this morning, Thursday. One thing we worked on in her clean is just making better contact and moving her feet a lot more. Really, really good improvement over the week. We didn't actually watch any of the other ones earlier. She set up well for the jerk, trying to keep her hips in line, in position. Solid lift all over.
Oh yeah, that was
way
good.
good. Yeah,
That
right?
was crazy.
What do you feel like was the biggest difference, the biggest change?
The setup helped a lot. I
Yeah.
think the setup helped everything because then everything just felt easy after I fixed my setup.
The start position was good.
Yeah.
I think that was the biggest one. What about Nicole? What do you think your best, the biggest things you changed this week?
In the snatch, it was definitely being aware of throwing my head and shoulders back like we kind of saw earlier.
Yeah.
And thinking about going up more.
So yeah, here's a really good. This is the last day. This is the end product, right? This is just some light drills. It's obviously lighter than earlier in the week, but way nicer. You can see that look too. That's the look of like, oh yeah, I know how to snatch now. Really nice technical lift compared to the earlier in the week. Close.
Oh yeah,
Really
look at that.
sharp turnover.
You looking magical.
Very straight pull. You didn't pick your feet up.
Depth.
This is probably the best lift you've ever done because the end, boom, perfect.
Stayed in the
Drop
circle.
that bar and just like, what's up, bitches? I know how to snatch. Way better. Pomp took a few cracks at I probably pushed him a little too far. He asked what to take, 143 or 145. His PR triple is 140. And Pomp's a really explosive guy, and he's generally a really like a gamer. He can turn it on for a big effort. So I went for 145. I pushed to that. And this was the closest attempt. Just a little bit like too fatigued to react on the third. You know, obviously, like, he's not standing up with all three of them, but it's not really a huge deal this early in the training cycle. You know, it's also a triple, so it's not going to be as huge of a carryover. It's not like, you know, we're doing one in a meet. But, you know, training-wise, you know, you can say to training make this nat. It's not necessarily relevant whether or not he, like, stood up and put it down with a down signal, because overall the training effect is very similar. You know, he's going to get a lot out of it. I think this was a really good day for him. You can tell by his excited celebration afterward how happy he was that he almost made that. Pretty solid attempt at a big triple in the snatch. 145 that's big. I mean, that's only about 10 kilos, 11 kilos off his best single. So that's improving quite a bit. His pulls are good. His hips come up. They always come up first. That's Pomp. That's how he lifts, right? I mean, that's how the position of his legs, the length of his legs, his back. His hips are gonna move more than his chest off the floor. Both of the first lifts are really solid. They're great attempts. The third one, it's strong. He actually probably pulled a lot harder than he may have expected because he pulled it a little bit further behind him at the top. Big finish. Caught it. Right here is what we're gonna talk about in terms of. This is a much more advanced concept for lifters once you're capable of, you know, being in this position. He's obviously tired because he's just done 2 really big snatches. From this position, when the bar is moving in one direction, when the bar is moving backwards, his correction here is to keep his hips under him. See how he lets his knees come up and his hips drop down? The only way you can save a lift that's moving forward or backward in horizontal plane, forward and back, is to stand up, because your only chance of getting under the center of gravity of the bar is to get the bar higher so that you can move under, right? You can't, you know, it's a really common mistake and it's a common reaction when the bar is moving that way to try and fight it. And Pomp has clearly these monster pipes here to try and fight the bar. And it's not like he did it wrong. He just probably, you know, for being tired, the bar's moving, being used to it, his reaction or his only ability to react, he just went to that, right? And it's not to say that, oh, he did it wrong. If he just stuck his butt up, he'd have made it. But, you know, the correction would be, hey, as soon as you feel that bar is behind you, you got to try and stick your ass up as fast as you can. You have to have good shoulder mobility to do that. You know, it's not going to be easy. The only way to save the lift, if the lift is going back, you have to stand up. You have to get your hips as high as possible, as fast as possible. It doesn't even mean you're going to make it, because you may have to step back too far and the bar may still be going back too far. Same with the bar being in front of you. If you caught the bar a little forward and tried to save it, you know, you're not going to pull it back. You're going to try and stand up and step forward and get under it. But yeah, I mean, it was a really solid attempt. Really, really good training. I mean, Pomp put a ton into it, so it was good. I mean, I would imagine that we're going to make a bunch of progress here. Celebrate here. Let's see the celebration again. I did it.